We should talk about surface preparation, because that's when we get a piece of lumber, we've sent it through our jointer and our planer. That's only the beginning of it.
Okay.
So, the sanding technique is key. Also, I use a card scraper, and I'll show you a way here with using some alcohol to really show off some of those flaws. So, tighten that down. Hand me one of those cloths there.
Okay.
And that alcohol in the big blue can.
And what's this going to do?
Well, alcohol dries very quickly. It'll flash away in just a few minutes.
Uh-huh.
And I can put this on the wood. And I'm just gonna. And where I may not be able to see the flaw very well here, when I rub this across here and I get a nice light coming across here, I can really see those planer marks.
Oh, you sure
Going
can.
across there. It really accentuates that. Now,
So-
if I were to put stain on that, those would be there.
Right.
And I'd be hard pressed to get those out.
Huh.
Because even a chemical stripper, it would remove the top coat or the pigments, because it's
Right.
on top of the wood. But the dyes are actually in the cells of the wood.
That's not coming out. Not without a lot of sanding, right?
Sanding or bleach, wood bleach. So you can get it out that way. Well, that's just extra work. So.
And is this raising the grain? Is that what it's doing?
Slightly it is. Not so much that it's going to matter so much on this, but a water-based product will really raise the grain.
Okay.
And so generally what I do for water-based is I will take just a sponge full of water and wipe across the entire project and let it sit for 4 or 5 hours. And that raised grain, you'll feel it very nibbly on there. I just take a hand sanding block with my final grit of sandpaper and knock that fuzz off of there. And when that fuzz is gone, that's when I stop sanding. I don't want to sand anymore. So I pre-raise the grain.
Okay.
And so the next product I put on will still raise the grain, but not really raise the grain like it did.
Not as much.
Right.
Right.
Not nearly as much. So one of the things that I like using is a card scraper. My grandfather was a furniture maker, and he carried a card scraper in his apron pocket.
He did?
He'd see something he didn't like, and he'd just go attack it. So let's grab this block here. So when you buy a card scraper, they're not sharp. You have to sharpen them. And one of my colleagues here made this little jig to hold just a mill file.
Okay.
Right? Just a saw kerf, and drop that in there. But it's 90 degrees to the wood. So when I bring my card scraper up here, I can flatten it this way.
Okay.
And a card scraper actually has 8 cutting surfaces on here. There's 4 on this side and 4 on this side. And so I'll do this, and I can continue all the way around. Generally, the filing is only done one time. After that, it's all going to be stonework then.
Okay.
So I take my, can you hear me, that little block of wood right there?
Yep.
Yeah. This is my magic scraper sharpening block.
It says right on
It says it
there.
right on there. And so with the stone, I will rub this across here and keep that, let's actually rock it on the device here. So I will use this block to keep it held down. And that way I'm getting pressure all the way across.
Yep.
If I just use my fingers, I'm going to end up with 3 shiny spots
Yep.
beneath my fingers.
Very
so this way I'm going to
uneven.
distribute the pressure, and I just go back and forth like this. And then I turn it over, and you can see how it's polished that edge up on there.
Yep.
And then go back and forth like this. And now the real magic occurs when I can bring this up on its side like this. And now I have a really true square edge.
Okay.
All right. It's ready now to develop a burr on it. So now I learned from my grandfather, this is the way you can watch 100 YouTube videos and get 100 different ways. So take a burnisher, and this is hardened tool steel, and just a little drop of oil on the burnisher. Go back and forth like this. And now with the burnisher just hanging off the workbench, I'm gonna lay this flat down.
Okay.
And I'm gonna draw out. And what that's doing is it is drawing metal out like this on the top surface. Come to this side and do the same thing. Now, so I've got metal coming out like this on both sides. I need to actually create then the folded over burr. So let's move this here. Remember the old matchbooks? You open it up.
Yeah.
That wedge shape.
Yeah.
That's about the angle that we're going to hold this as we create the burr.
Okay.
And so on this side, I've got metal going straight up, and I want to roll it over this way. So I'm going to hold this down like this. So just that slight book match angle.
You have a slight pitch on that.
Yeah, just a slight pitch. So I've done that side. There we go. And now I'm going to do this side. And there you can feel there's a little burr on there.
You can hear it too.
Yeah. And so I've drawn the metal out, and now I've rolled it over.
Okay.
Now to use this, initially I just hold it loosely and will scoot down and tilt it down at the same time, and it will catch, and that's where the cutting angle is.
Ah, okay.
So now I bring my hands up where I give it a slight flex, and my thumb is behind the area that I want to cut. And now it's just a matter of getting those. And there's my shavings coming off of there. And if you're doing it right, that'll get kind of hot.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you can definitely feel the heat in that.
Yeah. So now I've got rid of a lot of those planer marks that
Sure.
were in there. So I can take some more alcohol and I can rub across that board and say, yep, I got rid of them. So that surface preparation is pretty brutal.
How often are you tuning up that card?
When this starts to produce sawdust, as opposed to a shaving
Okay.
like this.
Okay.
I know, and that's what's nice about having all 8 sides done, because now I can just move from the center out to one edge, move to the other edge, turn the card over, turn the card over.
I
Just
gotcha.
so I've got a lot of use out of this.
Right, right.
So after that's done, then take another look at it with the alcohol. So I can just wipe down this area here and really see how a lot of that is gone on there. I'm
Sure.
getting a glare off of the light down here, and that really helps. Good light is key to good finishing too.
Now, what about a sander?
Well, sanding is great for woodworking. It sure picks up a lot of time. So we have a random orbit sander here. Most people use a sander incorrectly.
Oh, they do.
I'm
I'm sure I do.
They'll start it up here and they'll put it on the wood.
That's
well, you
what I do.
notice that it did not land flat on the wood. So now I've got a gouge where this moving sandpaper hit down here.
Yep, okay.
And if I, again, wipe it with alcohol, I may see that little crescent moon shape where I did this.
Okay.
Most people bear down on the sander thinking, well, golly, I've got to push harder. That makes it cut better.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't?
It wears out your pad. If you've got hook and loop on here, the heat that you've built up from pushing down will melt the hooks on your pad. And your sandpaper won't stick anymore.
Oh, wow.
So, and also they'll run their sander at full speed.
Yeah.
Now I generally run mine about half speed.
You do?
Yes.
Ah.
And
Do you ever adjust that?
rarely will I, unless I'm polishing, I might go up to, if I'm have a bonnet on here, I might spin it up.
Spin it faster, right, right.
But generally for sanding, I'm between 2.5 and 3.
Okay.
And this is on a scale of 6.
Yep.
And when I do it, I'm holding just the cord and the hose.
You are?
There's enough weight right here to do proper sanding.
Huh.
Now I'm hooked up to dust collection, and I have this turned all the way down because these are so efficient that the air is blown out through the center. If I'm on full blast on my vacuum, there's not enough air in there, and it will start to come when I come in from the sides, and the sander will bounce.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I turn the vacuum down to
Okay.
allow this to be the air, all the air it needs that's blowing out of the center hole.
Now, what grit is this?
This is 150 grit.
150.
Yeah.
Okay.
And for most stains, like on gel stains, the can will say sand no finer than 150. The liquid stains, sand no finer than 220. You got to read the stain can.
Okay.
That's your final grit.
That's
All right?
that's where
That's
you
it.
go. Okay.
Yeah. And so here, I'm just going to turn it on. I'm going to move about 3 inches per second. And then I'm going to overlap my stroke by about 50%.
Okay.
Notice this is the only thing that is controlling it is my hand right here. See, there's vacuum.
That's from the vacuum?
Yeah, that's from the vacuum. When I stop it, I want to stop on the wood.
Don't lift it off.
Yeah, because again, if I lift it up, I'm going to gouge it. Because I can't lift off in a single plane. Now, these are very efficient. There's no dust on there either.
Yep.
That's what's really nice about
Let's
these.
see this.
They make it so inviting to, starting it.
I already started it wrong. Even from the get-go, I'm wrong.
Well, and they make these so ergonomically inviting to hold that you want to push down on. And that's okay, just the weight of your hand can guide it fine.
All right.
I like being able to keep the cords and the hoses up off the work. So if I'm doing a big table, I might have that draped over my shoulder as I'm working then. Just like that.
So how do you know when you're done with sanding?
Well, I can look at it with my alcohol again, and I can see scratch marks left behind by previous grits.
Mm-hmm.
And when those scratch marks are gone, I know that this sandpaper has done its job. Then
To
I
move
can
on to the next grit.
Move on to the next grit. It's important though to keep this clean then. So I'll take this off and I'll brush off this or blow off this. I'll blow off my work because I don't want a loose grit here staying down here when I come back with the finer grit. Because of this random orbit action, this pad is actually spinning this way as well as whirling around here.
Okay.
That little pigtail of grit will show up. Oh. So again, when I'm done sanding, back to the alcohol, and I'm going to wipe that down, and I'll see any of those little pigtails that will have come across there.
Okay.
So,
And then you'd go back to it with the same grit.
Yeah.
Remove
there.
that.
I might just go with a hand sanding block. Just go back and forth with the grain.